Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the best sports show in Kansas City. This is Any Given Sunday on KUAW Radio, where sports come alive. Join your hosts, the awesome voice, and Coach 24 as they dive into the latest sports news, analysis, and excitement. From the biggest games to the most thrilling moments, they've got it all covered. So sit back, relax, and get ready for an hour of unbeatable sports action. This is Any Given Sunday on KUAW Radio.
There we go. Hello and welcome to the Weekend Eve. This is Any Given Sunday on KUAW. I am Brian Kress, the awesome voice, sitting next to me after he had his date with his lovely wife, my brother with another mother, Coach 24, Darwin Penny. How are you doing this evening, sir?
We're doing great, voice. It's another great show. Looking forward to the opportunity to just share a little bit, and so just glad to be here.
Absolutely. And behind the scenes running the show, Mr. DJ Scatter, George Walker. Mr. Walker, how are you doing this evening?
Hey, I'm warm, so I'm doing just fine.
Oh, I'm telling you, man. I've been out in this weather delivering mail. Well, technically, I haven't even been delivering mail because the last 2 days, the downtown office has not even been able to deliver our mail. The trucks can't get started because they're too cold. People are calling in, so they can't get our mail out to us. So we've been only delivering packages the last few days. But Tuesday, after the holiday Monday, I ended up working until about 8:30 that night. Missed bowling, which was fine because our team decided that we will post bowl this weekend. But still, I was out there, and a lot of guys could not get their mail delivered because of the vehicles they're in. Now, when you worked at the post office, we had the mail trucks. You had the LLV, and then the new FFEs came in. So I was driving an FFE, but now they've got these big old trucks, you know, the vans and everything, and they have the minivans. Well, the minivans, I guess, can do a little bit, but they still can't run as well as my FFE. So,
well, back in the day when I worked there, I started out in one of those Jeeps, looked like a snow cone truck. Oh. And then we had the Jeep, we had a quarter-ton vehicle, we had a half-ton vehicle. We used to have K cars, right, that were made by Chrysler. So we had those, and then right before I left in 1998 was when they first introduced the LLV. And so, but yeah, we used to have old non-power steering half-ton with a jump seat in it, looked like what you see the guys from UPS driving.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So we used to have some big vehicles like that. We used to do collection routes in those. But when we got the LLV, we didn't know how to act. It was just glad to be out of that little snow cone Jeep.
Absolutely. But, you know, I love my FFE. It gets me everywhere. I can get to most places. Now, if I drove not right or crazy, I could probably get stuck. I could find a way. But I was one of the few that got all of my mail delivered because there was a lot of people that brought it back the next day. But thank goodness, obviously, that our DPS didn't show up because we haven't delivered mail in the last 2 days. Only parcels, only packages and stuff like that. And it's just been rough. And I don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. So I was like, man, I just want to make sure I get off in time so we can do our show tonight. And obviously I got done in plenty of time to do that. The only good thing about rural carriers, we get paid by evaluation. So my route is a certain amount, so I get paid for it, whether I do it in 5 hours or 10 hours. So, but the city carriers, if they don't work their 8 hours, they have to put in leave to get those extra hours. So I told them, I said, you guys need to file a grievance about that because that's just totally bogus because you guys were there ready to go, and just because they didn't have it for you doesn't mean you should be punished. So, so anyway, this is a sports show. Yes, it is, but we're talking a little life and stuff. So with that, we got the Royals now, and this is probably one of your last shows for a while. So tell us a little bit. I've heard there was a few transactions that's happened this past week, and just give us an update on how the Royals are doing and what's going on.
So the team is still trying to find that right mix. Still looking for a right-handed bat to add to try to hopefully get a little bit more power in the lineup. Was also able to bring in a few more pitchers. A couple of guys signed to minor league deals. Stripling was a guy who signed a minor league deal. Ross Stripling. Ross has been around as a right-handed pitcher. Will bring some more depth to the team. He's past. He's in the back end of his prime at about 35 years old, and but he's he's got a career ERA of around 4, and so you're just looking for a guy to come in and add some depth and be able to compete for back end of a bullpen spot. I think the bullpen right now has the chance to be the best part of the team. I think we're going to allow Daniel Lynch to compete for that 5th starter. It had been a source of contingency among people in the scouting department, hoping that because of the success that he had in the bullpen, that maybe leave him in the bullpen. But I know, he wants to start and go out and compete for that. And so that we were able to do a contract extension with Cole Reagans and extend him out, buy away some of those arbitration years, and so you don't necessarily have to overpay, but you'll have him through his age 29 year, and I think that's huge. Since he's been with the Royals, since he came over in August at the trade deadline in 2023, he's been one of the top pitchers in all of baseball as far as ERA goes and hits per 9 innings. And so to have that young man sewn up for the next 3 years gives us an opportunity to go out and compete when you know that now you're the top of your rotation, which is the key part of it, is set. But you got Cole Reagans, you got Seth Lugo, and you got Michael Walker. And then, we're going to allow 4 and 5 to go out and compete for that. Biggest things we've got to get is we've got to get some production out of our outfield, right? We've got the best shortstop in the game. We've got Jonathan India coming over, who is going to bring some on-base percentage to us in that leadoff spot. Still trying to figure out how we're going to utilize him. Looks like he's more than likely going to play second base, and we'll see what happens with Michael Massey, and hopefully we'll leave third base, intact. We still got the best backup or catching duo. Vinny should be healthy this year, and so the Royals will have a chance to stack up and to go out and compete against the Yankees, the Red Sox. Obviously, the Red Sox made a huge move in bringing Alex Bregman in,
right?
And so, but it's also created some controversy in their locker room because Rafael Devers says he doesn't want to move from third base. He wants to stay at third base. He doesn't want to move to first. They've got a young man that's a little bit more athletic than Bregman to play second, and so now it looks like Bregman's going to play second, and not David Hamilton. And so, but I think that our Royals team can go out and can compete with those guys. And, we also were able to extend the contract of our general manager, J.J. Piccolo, knowing he's going to be with the team through 2030. So that's going to give us some stability in the front office. And then also the manager, Matt Cotero, was extended a couple of years too. And so what we see is stability starting to materialize amongst the Royals and go out and compete. We're not going to sneak up on anybody this year, but we're just going to go out and play good baseball.
So let me ask you this. Outside of losing Brady Singer, obviously in the trade with Cincinnati, do you think this year's starting lineup or starting pitching will be better than last year's?
You'd like to think so, but if you would talk to analysts, they say that a lot of our guys performed at their peak performance last year. Had career years, and so the opportunity for them to go back. I think the bullpen is going to be stronger, and so I think that will give us a chance. You got to remember, early in the season, we struggled in the bullpen, and we gave up some leads until it started to settle down. When Urseg came over, our bullpen became solid, and so now you bring him, you bring Estevez in this year, who's had experience closing, and then everybody else is starting to just find their niche and who they are, and I think we've got an opportunity to be really good on there. We've got some young guys. Like a Noah Cameron, who's still trying to fight his way out of AAA as one of our top prospects. Steven Cruz had an outstanding year at AAA, but also made his major league debut. Those guys. Hunter Harvey, we got in a trade last year. That's also a bullpen. Carlos Hernandez, hoping he can stay healthy for a full year. Alex March be back healthy this year, and so. And then the guy that Angel Zerpa, he really came on as a left-hander the last 2 months of the season. And so I think that's Kyle Wright, who didn't pitch all last year. He's back this year, and we'll see where that is. And then hopefully James MacArthur can find his spot that he had early in the year when he was really good, and then he kind of faded toward the end. But I think there's an opportunity for us to be a really good team, especially based on what we're going to have in pitching wise in the bullpen. And then let's see who are going to be number 4 and 5, who's going to take on and who's going to win that battle in spring training to see who is going to be those guys.
Right. Now, I heard that Urseg said last year when they got late September to October playoff bound, that he was not physically ready because he had played for Oakland, so they were never in the playoffs. So he just, virtually trained himself to the end of September. And so this year he's bound and determined to work out and get in shape to where he can make it the extra season in the October and November. So saying that, do you think his chances of being the closer is better, or are they still looking at the new guy that was coming in?
I would think that based on where we finished last year, okay, and him closing out some big games to get us to past that first round, the wild card round, I think he is the guy until he's not the guy. Now, our manager, Matt Quinteros, would still say that it's more of by committee and that he wants everybody to feel like they can close and everybody to feel like they can set up. But you know who those guys that you want to have those leverage innings, and those guys are going to be Urseg, they're going to be Estevez. I think that also Zerpa will continue to be a bridge guy. We'll see what happens with Sam Long this year, and does he figure in the mix? Chris Stratton was signed this year as another arm, and then Schreiber had his first full year in the big leagues last year, and so let's see, can he sustain? Because he was really good early in the year, kind of faded a little bit down the stretch, but gave us some quality innings in the playoffs. So I think, again, right now, if I was a bet man, Urseg would be the guy, and then Estevez would probably be number 2.
Gotcha. So saying that, the more arms, the better, because you can keep them fresh and everything else. But is it always better to have pitching by committee or have set guys? Like in 2015, we had HDH. You knew when they were pitching 7th, 8th, and 9th innings. This is not quite HDH, but we do have a decent bullpen. Is it better to have the pitcher by committee, or is it better to have set?
This is coming from me personally, right? I like having a set guy, right? Because I feel like it gives the team an opportunity to say, when we get to this point, it's a wrap, because we know that guy's coming in. It's one of the things that I'll say to our arch rival in our division, Cleveland. You know who's coming in in the ninth, and it's nasty. And it does not only something for your team, but it does something to the other team. Because oh my God, here's this guy, right? It was nothing like seeing number 42 come out of the Yankees bullpen. It was over.
And playing Metallica.
Exactly. So I like that. But Q has a feel for this team. He has a rapport with these guys, and I didn't know what he was going to be like because he didn't have any managerial experience when he came to the Royals, and hadn't been an ultra successful minor league manager.
Right.
But these guys have responded to him, and they've responded to his style of next man up, pitch by committee, and so that'll probably be what he goes with the exception of saying these are the guys that I want having the biggest leverage inning, but it may be this guy tonight and this guy tomorrow. But these are the guys that I want the leverage, and these are the guys that I want to be the bridge guys, and these are the guys that I want to be, if we got to pull a pitcher early in the game, here are the guys that are going to go long.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I've just always been one. I'm very traditional in having defined roles. It's your role till it's not your role.
Right. Gotcha. So, saying this, the Royals also brought in Ned Yost as a senior advisor to the general manager and everything else. Now, just to either have rumors or to break these rumors, a lot of people sometimes are thinking that if Q doesn't perform well, that they may bring Ned Yost back in and have him manage. Is that something that could happen?
No, I think this is not the Yankees of Steinbrenner and Billy Martin.
Right.
Right. And I think one of the things that should have put those kind of issues to rest was the fact that they extended Q. Right, and that the plan is for him to be here. If Ned wanted to continue managing, he could have. Ned retired on his own.
Right.
Obviously he had the hunting incident where he had fallen out of a loft and
thank
tore
goodness he had a phone.
Thank goodness. And the crazy part is that he says he never took his phone out there, but the only reason he did that day is because his wife was leaving, going out of town. And so, but Ned is going to have eyes everywhere, not just on the major league club. He's going to have input in the minor leagues. He's going to have input at every level. And so that's what he's brought in to do. He's not brought in to manage. He's not brought in to get in position to manage, but just because of who he is, the vast baseball knowledge that he has, the success that he's had. Ned was never really far from the Royals, but he needed some time away. When you've been a baseball lifer, he needed some time away to find out what's the next move. And so now the next move is, as an advisor, it's not quite an everyday grind of being in the office or being on the field, but I can just have those meaningful conversations with JJ or whoever in the organization to make sure that we're doing the very best for all of our players.
Right. Absolutely. So, and I guess he wanted baseball again because he loves baseball so much. So this is a way for him to kind of be back into baseball.
It's the best of both worlds, right? I still get to be around the game, but I'm not as consumed as I was when I was the manager.
Absolutely. So tomorrow starts spring training, and they play Texas, and obviously Texas and the Royals play in spring training in Surprise, Arizona. What is going to go on with that? Do you know who's starting or anything like that?
I don't know who's starting, but what I don't generally what happens early in the spring is you're just trying to get guys some at bats against live pitching. The guys who do start the game, if there are regular starters and they're not injured, then those guys will go out and they'll get a couple of at bats, and then they'll move on, and then let some other guys start to get some reps, over the first 10 days. The main thing you want to do is maintain health over those first 10 days, and then people can start to determine, right, who needs more at bats, who needs less at bats, and then where are the positions where there are true competitions to see who's going to get this spot.
Now, and I can't remember, normally how many preseason games or spring training games do they play?
So normally you're going to play somewhere around 20, 25 spring training games, depending on if you do some split squad games, things like that. And so, but it is just trying to get guys ready. Guys come into spring training a lot more in shape than they used to. Spring training used to be a lot longer, by at least another 2 to 3 weeks, where guys were kind of working their way into shape, whereas now guys train year-round, and so they're ready to go and they're ready to pitch in games. You know, you used to be at spring training for 2-3 weeks before you'd ever play a game. Now, you know, the pitchers and catchers we just had the first full squad workout Monday.
Right.
And so now you got to try to start getting games going within the first 5 days of you being there.
Right, absolutely. So, you know, you were talking about how they train all year long, they get ready to play all these games. Is 162 games too much?
I don't think 162 games is too much, but I personally, as one, would like to see them shorten the season.
And why is that?
A little bit. Because we've extended the playoffs, so I'd like to see the regular season be shortened a little bit so that baseball truly would be done in October, right, and not into November. How are you going to be Mr. October? Now you have to be Mr. November.
Which is Freddie Freeman.
The other thing that I would like to see is baseball play at the major league level like they do at the minor league level and play in halves. So you would have a record up until the All-Star break. At that point, the teams that are leading are in the playoffs. Then you start back at 0 after the All-Star break. And then whoever wins the second half of the season, then they're in the playoffs. And then you could add in your wild cards from each half, or whoever has the best overall record, you make sure that they get in the playoffs, because you could actually lose both halves and still have a better record than the team that won both halves. So that could be your wild card berth, and that give you an opportunity to get in the playoffs. But for me, it does something for the fan. It keeps the fan engaged. If my team is 20 games out at the All-Star break, what's my incentive for going the last half of the season? We got no chance of making it,
right?
Save a miracle, right? And so to say that now we're starting over again, to me, that keeps people coming to the ballpark for the next 2 months, because then all of a sudden, let's say you make some bold moves at the All-Star break, you bring some kids up from the minors, trade somebody, whatever, then all of a sudden you got a different team the second half. Right. We've seen teams the second half of the season be much better than they were the first half of the season. And so I just think from a fan engagement standpoint, and we are trying to gain more fans in baseball, that could be an option. If you don't shorten the season,
right, then
here's another option to keep people engaged.
Okay, so then the stick that's saying that if you shorten the league, and we're talking about all the leagues with the exception of the NFL, baseball, basketball, and hockey. If you cut the games down, then it's more like a sprint than a marathon, and the games will be more important. How do you see that when people tell you that?
I would disagree. It's still a long season. Let's just say you cut the games by 20 games.
Okay.
Right now, I'm not getting into revenue.
Right.
So I'm not getting into
revenue.
We're
just talking about games.
We're just talking about games. So now I'm 140 games. I think we can still determine who the best team is within 140 games. Right. I don't think it takes away. At one time, we played a 154 game schedule. Right. And we extended it, to 8 more games.
Right, because Babe Ruth played 154 games, and that was 100 years ago.
Right. So I just think that there's opportunity to examine we're always talking about player safety, right? We're always also looking at revenue. So how can we continue to capitalize on the revenue and make sure that the players are safe?
Right.
Right. And I think one of the ways we can do that is either splitting the season, okay, or B, reducing the season because you've already extended the playoffs.
So saying that, and to me, I agree with you with that. I like that because it gives, everybody's talking about you wanting more teams in the playoffs. Well, having two seasons, or first half and second half, is the best way to do it. So, what are the chances that either Rob Manfred or the next commissioner that comes in will use that as an idea?
Well, I think everything is on the table now to try to gain fan interest, and especially of the millennials and Gen Z, B, whatever they are, the millennials children.
Gen Z, yeah, Gen
right?
Z.
And so they have grown up in TikTok, and they've grown up in YouTube and things that are 15 minutes or less. And so how are you going to keep them engaged, right? When they did a study a couple of years ago, the average baseball fan is a 54-year-old white male. Okay, that's not all of America.
No.
And so how are we going to engage this next generation into the game? And I think that's an opportunity that we have to continue to look at, right? Just like we did with the pitch clock, just like we did with instant replay, just like we did with challenges and everything else. We've examined our game and say there are some things that we need to do to make sure, without destroying the sanctity of the game, but also what are some new things that we could do, right? They made bigger bases, right? Trying to promote stealing. You can only disengage twice from the rubber, and throwing over the third time, you either have to get the guy moves up another base.
Right.
So there are things that I think we have to be open to. And so for me, because you do it at the minor league level, I don't see why it would be a big deal in transitioning to playing halves in the major leagues. We also have played halves in a strike-shortened season in 1981. So we have precedent of that.
Right, because the Royals benefited from it because
absolutely.
Oakland dominated the first half, and then the Royals won the second half, and then Oakland ended up beating them. So.
But you've got to come up with a fair plan, because my team back then growing up was the Cincinnati Reds, and they had the best record in baseball in 1981 and did not make the playoffs because they lost the first half by a game to the Dodgers, and then lost the second half by like a game to the Braves or somebody, right? And so they didn't make the playoffs despite having the best record in all of baseball that year.
Wow. Yeah, and that is rough. So, but I love the info because, as you said, this new generation is you got people with ADHD. I probably have it. I know my son has it and stuff, but these kids even more today, they are just, like you said, they've got to have something now, and it's got to last a few minutes because they get bored and everything else. So I definitely would love to see the game changed in that aspect. I think it would totally benefit. And here's the thing. You talk about wanting revenue. What more revenue could you get than to, watch them play two halves and see how that
People
does.
still coming to the ballpark, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's for me, what the NFL has been able to get right is that they've found a way to create parity in the team. Every year there's new teams that get in the playoffs because of that. But they also have, a salary cap. And I don't want to count anybody's pockets, but I think salary cap is what baseball needs.
Right, and they're fighting that tooth and nail right now with that. So, hi, Mom. How you doing? She's saying hi to us.
Hey, Mom.
So, anyway, we are at halftime on Any Given Sunday on KUAW. We're going to take a quick break, and then when we get back, we're going to talk a little Chiefs kind of review just for a second. The Super Bowl, the free agency, what players are still going to be with the Chiefs or not. And I've got my USA jersey on because USA is representing tonight for the Four Nation tournament, playing against arch rival Canada. So we will take a quick break, and we will be right back. Now I hear the music. All right, we are back for the second half of Any Given Sunday on KUAW. Got Coach 24, we got DJ Scatter behind the scenes, and I am the awesome voice. So we were talking Royals baseball and baseball, and now we're going to just talk just a little bit about the Super Bowl. What was your assessment on the Super Bowl?
Well, I mean, obviously, you look at the game and you saw dominance on the part of the Eagles. One of the things that we talked about the week before the Super Bowl, we talked about who would be the team to break and turn the ball over.
Right.
The Chiefs were the team to turn the ball over. And one of the things I talked about is how Philly could win if they were to win is being able to score without having the ball. And so being able to turn a pick six and put points on the board, then have another interception and have a short field, to me was a real deciding factor. And then not allowing Mahomes to get comfortable in what they were able to do. And they were able to put pressure on him without blitzing.
Right.
I mean, it was four guys most of the time just coming at him, and they were just winning the line of scrimmage. I was disappointed in the Chiefs' just inability to even try to run the ball. And it just wasn't fair. I think when you look at Mahomes' numbers for the game, there's a lot of empty calories in there. I think he was 21 of 32 and 200-something yards, whatever. It really wasn't that good.
No,
really wasn't that good.
If it wasn't for the two long passes to
at the end,
Xavier Worthy, he probably wouldn't even been 150 yards.
Well, the sad part was that at halftime, the Eagles had more points than the Chiefs had yards.
Yeah.
And I mean, so it was utter dominance. Your hat has to go off to the Eagles. They had a game plan. They executed that game plan top to bottom. We talked about them having a better roster. It showed in the game.
Yeah.
We were still hoping that 15 could turn into Bullwinkle one more time and say, "Hey, Rocky, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat." But there was no rabbit in that hat. I don't even think he had a hat.
I don't think
And so,
either.
He's human. I've only seen him have two bad games in playoffs, and both of them were in the Super Bowl, and
Right.
both of them they was almost identical at the type of pressure that the Eagles were able to do versus what the Buccaneers did in Tampa a few years back, and so it was that, and even the Eagles staying committed to the run. We came in here saying that Saquon couldn't have a big day and
Right.
them win. They did that, but Jalen Hurts came up with the completions when he needed them, and he stayed cool, and he had a clean pocket. Patrick did not have a clean pocket. And thus we saw a dominant game on the Eagles' part, and so your hat goes off to them. They had the second best record in football this year. We had the two best teams in the Super Bowl, and one team was on that day better. If they played 10 times, it'd probably be 6-4 one way or the other. I think the Chiefs played as bad a game as they could play, and I think the Eagles played almost as good a game as they could play.
Now, let me say this real quick. A lot of people complained about left tackle. Obviously, that's been a sore subject all year long. Do you think that left tackle was the main reason why that pass rush was so dominant?
No. I think all four guys were finding ways. We were worried about it at the beginning, is really their two best guys on their defensive line are up the middle, the two defensive tackles, and those
Right.
guys were able to do that. But once they established the lead and there was really no threat to even attempt to run the ball, they just pinned their ears back and they just came hard and just got him off his mark, right? We're not going to allow you to sit, and they did a good job of dropping 7 in coverage, and so his ability to scramble and make plays after that were limited as well. But the thing that they did is they controlled the clock. They controlled the ball. As I've always said, the way you beat Mahomes is keep him on the sidelines.
Yep, and that's what they did. So I was on Marvin's podcast, and I said that even if John Alt or Willie Rofe would have played left tackle, it wouldn't have made a bit of difference because that's how strong they were. And we have the best center in football. We have one of the best guards, right guards in football, and they made them look so
got
hard.
blown
I
up.
mean, it was a team. It was Philadelphia won in a team effort. The Chiefs lost in a team effort. So, but saying that, look, I mean, a lot of people got depressed. I was worried that they were going to go to the bridge and jump off and everything. And all the Chiefs didn't do was win a three-peat. That's it. You know, they will still be one of the favorites next year. It's not like they're going to turn into the New York Jets or something like that.
Right. Yeah. The Chiefs will, as long as 15 is quarterback, and as long as this is a quarterback-driven league, the Chiefs will have a chance.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Okay. The question will be, will the rest of the AFC catch up?
Well, they've been
Okay.
trying to catch up for the last 7 years.
Absolutely. And what we know is that eventually you do catch up. The question is when.
Right.
The question is when. And for me, the only big issue will be in this Chiefs dynastic tenure will be, what will it be like when Andy's no longer the coach? Will you be able to find that guy that bridges right in? Can you do like what the 49ers were able to do, moving on from Bill Walsh to George Seifert,
Right.
and moving on from Joe Montana to Steve Young, and they were still basically the same team.
Right, but that's because they had most of the other players were still there.
Absolutely, right. And so the Chiefs have people in position as far as young talent that is under contract, that's locked up. They have great chemistry. You have great general manager. You have great front office. You got great ownership. All the things line up for the Chiefs to be good for a long time. Again, like I said, as long as 15. Again, but because football is a one game, one of those games, Josh Allen's going to finally beat them in the playoffs, or a Lamar Jackson, or will the Chargers continue to get better with Harbaugh at the head and kind of settling their quarterback down, and will they be able to add pieces around him? What will, with Sean Payton, will Denver continue to get better? The Raiders got to be revamped totally, and so what's that going to look like? All the breaks that fell the Chiefs' way this year,
Right.
will those breaks fall the same way? Now, what it does is, instead of them being, basically a 15-2 team, you're now either a 13-4 or maybe a 12-5 team, still a really, really good team. But is there the big separation that there has been?
Right.
That's going to be the challenge, and to see how they move forward. But still in a dynasty type mode, winning 2 out of the last 4 and 3 out of the last 6 Super Bowls. That's great.
Absolutely. So, saying that, and hi PJ, with Patrick Mahomes, with Patrick Mahomes, and he had struggled. I totally lost focus. My apologies. So, the Chiefs, when they struggled 2 years ago, and then they turned around, won, and I know that they have played on the road, though it was only one season, that they still beat them. How does that fare for them? Because Buffalo tried to add more people, but a lot of people said that Buffalo was not a great team. That's why he won the MVP over Lamar Jackson, because Lamar Jackson had more skilled players than Buffalo did. That's why he ended up winning. And on the other thing, what does the Chief need to do in the draft this year to try to help this? Because more than likely, Trey Smith is gone because he's going to get a huge contract unless the Chiefs sign him. And even though the salary cap is jumping up, well, it was 275. Now it's up to 277 to 281.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, the Chiefs need to continue to bolster a good but not great offensive line. I think we saw that left tackle is a position that needs to be addressed. I think really both the tackles needs to be addressed either through the draft or through some type of free agent competition. Right, I'm not saying you got to get rid of the guys that are there, but you got to foster some competition to say you either get better or somebody else is going to be playing that position. I think you may look at again boostering the wide receivers. Are you going to bring in somebody? There's been rumors about the Chiefs inquiring about possibly bringing a DJ Metcalf here and what that would look like. But I think the nucleus of what they have as a team is in place. They've got good skill position. Or do you find low-hanging fruit in the third or fourth round with a running back? You're still trying to figure out who's going to be that guy at running back to solidify that position. Let's say if you saw in the second or third round the guy from Arizona State, Kickaboo, if he was there, would you pass on that guy and just say no? We're gonna stick with Pacheco, or are you going to dig? And then, are the guys in your tight end room going to be the guys that you stick with beyond Travis Kelce, assuming that he does fulfill his contract and come back and play next year?
Okay, so and here was the question that I had. The Chiefs have been playing the last few years. They have players that play and they play well together. But do they need to get better as of athletic wise, as into like the 2018, 2019, 2020, when we had like a high powered offense? We're just getting players that are just showing up and doing their job and everything else. Do we need to go back to that, or do we need to get better and stronger back in like 2018 and 19?
I think they have adjusted and learned how to win because it was a high-profile offense, but it was a soft defense. And the Chiefs got better on defense, right? I think you could still improve the defense by getting another D tackle to go alongside Chris Jones. I think you really got what you need on the edge, and I think you're good at corner and decent at safety. The linebackers play well. I think that another playmaker never hurts at the receiver position, but everything says that Rashee Rice should be healthy, but then there's going to be some issues on is he going to get a suspension and things like that for the car incident. You saw this year the explosiveness that you have in Worthy and what he's able to do. Will you be able to re-sign D-Hop and see if he wants to come back so that he can get that elusive Super Bowl ring, which is all that's holding him back in his quest to be a Hall of Fame player. And so this is probably a good fit for him. And so I think, you add a little bit more depth in that receiver core. I think you have what you need at tight end. And then I'm still convinced that they've got to find a mix in the running game, because you got to remember that explosive offense was also predicated on what Kareem Hunt was able to do, not just what you were able to do with the cheetah going deep. But teams had to play you honest because you could run the ball. He had over 1,300 yards rushing that year.
And seeing Pacheco, I'm not sure how healthy he's going to be. Yes, he's going to have an off season. He's going to have 6 months roughly to heal up and get ready for training camp, actually in July. But I was saying last week that even though the technology to get these players healthier and faster, from these injuries, it still has to take them a while. Like if we got injured, well, you had your neck surgery. You definitely couldn't have gone out a week or two later and performed anything. These guys are performing, but it still takes them a while to get back to where they were at before the injury.
Right. You've got two hurdles to cross. You got the physical hurdle that you got to cross to say, that there's no more structural damage. You got the ability to cut, and then you got to get over the mental hurdle. It's saying that my body is healed and that it is going to perform the way it's supposed to perform, and I don't have to think about cutting, and I don't have to think about accelerating, and so I don't have to think about it hurting anymore, and I've got to be able to trust the process and to have that full strength back. And so I think that's always the challenge with players coming back from injury, especially a lot of guys that they've never been injured before, and this is the first time that you're having to come back from some major injury, and you don't really know what that's like, of having to go through the mental hurdle of knowing when I go out here and I go out here and I want to make this play, that my body's going to respond.
Right, absolutely. So, so now we're going to talk a little bit about Zach Martin. Zach Martin, and we're talking Dallas. So, guys, listen up. So, Zach Martin is talking about retiring. What does that do for the Cowboys?
It's huge because he is the elder statesman. He is the anchor. He's a future first ballot Hall of Famer. There, as I've said to many Cowboy fans this year, you got to realize how young the offensive line was still. You had a rookie at center. You had a rookie at left guard. And then you had a second-year guy at left tackle, right? And then the right guard is Zach Martin, and he battled through injuries this year, which he's been relatively healthy his entire career. And then at right tackle, you have a guy that should be a backup. And so they've got to try to figure out how to do that. But he's the glue not only to that offensive line, but also to stability within the locker room. And so to me, that would be a huge blow if he decides to go ahead and retire. But if he doesn't retire this year, he'll retire the year after. So they do need to kind of get ready and prepare themselves for it.
Yeah, because I saw an article that he is going to, or supposedly going to retire now. I didn't hear it from his mouth, so he could play another year or whatever.
Right.
But
and he may say this is the perfect time for him to go because of the change at head coach.
Right.
And probably some type of change as far as offensive philosophy goes. And so
how did you like the fact that you got a rookie head coach running the Cowboys?
I don't worry about being a rookie head coach because every great coach was a rookie coach at one time.
Right.
Tom Landry was a rookie coach at one time. So
You're right.
It is, right? Andy Reid, everybody. So you have to get a first opportunity. The challenge, I think, for most people like myself is that, man, he's getting his first head coaching job at a relatively late age. Most guys have had their first head coaching job in their 40s, not in their 50s. Now, this guy's been around the game
Now,
a long time.
Schottenheimer is 50?
Yeah.
I thought he was in his 40s.
He's like 51.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
I didn't
So
realize
he's been around the league a long
right,
time.
that I did know.
Mhm.
That part I did know.
Right. So, I'm not worried about that. Again, they still have the same issue that I've been saying since Parcells left. It's a discipline issue. It's not a talent issue. It's a discipline issue. You can't continue to kill drives with penalties that don't make sense. The jumping of offsides, the false starts, those type of things.
Right.
Those are player discipline fouls, and you've got to get beyond that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're done with football, and tonight when we get off the show, the Four Nation in hockey, NHL, it was kind of like the All-Star game. So they did this Four Nation tournament for the 4 teams. So U.S., Canada, Finland, and Sweden were in this week-long 4-team round robin. And tonight, the USA, which I am donning my Jim Craig USA jersey from when he won, which in 2 days would have been 45 years ago that the USA beat Russia.
Do you believe in miracles?
I'm telling you what, every time I hear Al Michaels say, "Do you believe in miracles?" man, it wells me up every single time because I remember watching that game big time. And tonight, they're having the exact same passion. The U.S. is playing Canada for the championship, and in their first game, the Tanuk brothers got in a fight, kind of like Slapshot and the Hanson brothers. I'm telling you what, it was very passionate and it was very physical, and I'm looking forward to this game, absolutely. So, but you know, these are the types of things that we need to use to bond us together. You know, it's not political or racial or anything else. This is bonding. We need to bond together as a group. And so with that, the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum and the Royals are taking care of people's admittance to go to the museum. And you guys need to go to the museum and check it out. And if you can get a chance to get Bob Kendrick to do a tour for you, oh my gosh, even if you had to pay the admission, it is definitely well worth the admission. And you guys need to go, because after next Friday, the free museum tour will be over with. So, but we are at the end of Any Given Sunday on KUAW, and Coach 24 is probably going to have his last show for a while because he will be on the road trying to make the Royals even a better team the way they are. But we still have our best subject of best segment of the show, Penny for Your Thoughts.
Penny for Your Thoughts in conjunction with Black History Month, and as Brian was talking about, the Negro League Baseball Museum is dedicated today to the Black Aces. The Black Aces is a group of 15 African Americans who have won 20 or more games at the major league level, and it was first done by Don Newcomb with the Brooklyn Dodgers in 1951. And so Don Newcomb would have an outstanding career. Of the Black Aces, 3 of them are in the Hall of Fame, the legendary Bob Gibson, Ferguson Jenkins, and then this year our 2025 inductee, Carson Sabathia, also
nice.
known as CC Sabathia, and so we're pretty excited with him. And so Don Newcomb was the first and the last African American to win 20 games in the major leagues, was in 2012, David Price. It's one of the positions that did not really transition from Negro League Baseball over into Major League Baseball, and that is that of the ace of the pitching staff. But we have had some really good ones over the years. You'll hear names that have won 20 games like Sam Jones, Bob Gibson, Jim Mudcat Gratt, the guy who coined the phrase Black Aces, Ferguson Jenkins, Al Downing, Vida Blue, the late great J.R. Richard. One of my favorites when I was a young man off to college, Dwight Gooden, Dave Stewart of the Oakland A's, and then a phenom back in 2005 by the name of Dontrell Willis joined that club before C.C. Sabathia, and then David Price in 2012. So we salute our hat to the Black Aces, those 15 African-American pitchers who have won 20 or more games at the major league level, and the hopes that a new Black Ace would be birthed maybe this year, and some of the young guys. And then certainly we want to celebrate C.C. Sabathia as he goes into the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely. That is awesome. So, and that's why it's always the best segment on the show. So we are at the end of Any Given Sunday on KUAW. My brother with another mother Mr. George Walker running the show, and I am Brian Kress, the awesome voice. Be awesome, not angry, and you guys have yourself a phenomenal sports weekend.